Kim, if you don't mind doing that for us. Thanks, Kim. Okay, so introductions. My name is Michelle. I think we've worked together over the last couple of sessions. Monica and Rochelle are also informaticists that are joining us. Kim is here today with us as well, so thanks, Kim, for being here. And there's a new face that some of you may or may not know, who's Wally. Wally, would you like to introduce yourself to us?
Yeah, hey everyone. I'm Wally. I'm with the surgical and anesthesia design team. So deal with a lot of the integration points for Cerner, but also very involved with things like items and pick locations for the design of Cerner.
Thank you. And are you all familiar with each other, Lisa and Pam? Have you met Doreen? Doreen, have you met Lisa and Pam?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. Very good.
Yes.
I just want to make sure that we are all familiar with each other. Thank you. Okay, and again, like all of our other sessions, please jump in at any time if we're talking too fast, or if we want it to be interactive and we want us to really have a foundational understanding of how you do things. So please, if we are incorrect in some of the ways, just let us know along the way. We'll go into the next slide. And these are some standard tools, some standard terminology that we use. It's a little bit different than what we've used in other sessions that we've gotten to get together for. Disorder reporting portal allows for access to the repository of reports, including slates, pick lists, doctor preference cards, perioperative tracking. That's the same one you've seen before, surgical slate communication tool. The MMBD tool, it's used to add and associate and disassociate the items and update their locations. We'll show you what that looks like today. We're going to do a demo on that. Preference card maintenance tool, also another application we use to alter, create, change preference cards. Ops job, so this is where we'll have the pick list automatically print, excuse me. And so we have it all printed to one printer. We'll talk about what that looks like later today. Doctor's preference cards report is specific to the surgical area and the procedures that we're working on. And then we'll look at the pick list report as well. Next slide, please. I think this is where we'll dive into questions. So I'll hand it over to Monica.
Okay, so the first question we had for you guys is who currently enters or removes item into the inventory at MDRD at your site? Do you have like a senior tech or someone specific?
Yeah, Sarah Mellish.
Sarah, and is she the senior tech at the site?
Yes.
Senior tech. Yeah. And does anyone cover for her if she goes on vacation or she's away?
There's a few, yeah.
Okay, and what programs or applications do you currently use in MDRD, like Sunset or SBD Finder?
Oh, I don't even know. Sunset sounds familiar. I'm wondering.
They use Sunset, yeah.
Yeah, Sunset is the only thing. Yeah.
And do you use TDoc for your tracking of instruments currently?
No, we don't have TDoc there right now.
Okay. Whatever is your current state tracking of equipment will stay the same, and Cerner will not replace that.
Yeah, Doreen, are you planning to implement TDoc?
There's talks about that, but yes. In the future, yes.
In the future, okay. Mm-hmm. Keep us posted if that future is before our future of arrival.
Yeah.
Because we'll have conversations like we do over at Lionsgate.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
When do you start picking cases for the next day for the elective slate?
We pick the case the day before.
Is it usually in the evening that begins?
Nope, daytime.
Daytime, okay. And how and when are pick lists for elective cases currently generated?
Well, Sam or Pam, when do you send down the slate to MDR?
I think what they do is the Friday before they they print for the week, and then I would update them if there are any last minute changes so that they can print off those pick lists.
Okay. Do you have a set time that the slate is considered finalized and then the pick list is printed?
Not necessarily. No, I finalize the slate about 2 p.m. the day before, but I'm not sure exactly what time they do that downstairs. I think it would have to be before that.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it is before that, if they're picking during the daytime.
Yeah. I would
Often
think.
we have them printing like 10, 11, 11:30. Some sites do it,
Our carts are up by 2.
or up 2 by 2. Okay. Doreen, are you aware what time the pick list reports prints downstairs?
It prints downstairs or sent downstairs. I think they start picking around in the afternoon, but I'm not sure what time in
Okay.
the afternoon. Yeah.
Okay. Is this printed directly to MDRD?
I think it's upstairs, right, Lisa, in the OR?
Sorry.
For Insight, what we have is the ops job will print I'll give you Lionsgate for an example. It's printed near the OR area, and
We
it
just send
prints
it
to the
down, yeah.
CRNs.
Yeah, we print it in the OR, we send it down on the clean.
Okay, that's what we need to know. Perfect. And then it gets sent it down. So we're going to try to mimic that for you guys as well. So when we have this, we'll do the doc routing so it prints to that printer that's going to be in the OR area. And then we will have it so it's the same workflow. Then you send it down to MDRD. Okay. And then we'll just finalize a time whenever that is of when you want it to print. Wally.
Hey, Pam mentioned that they print for the week. Could you just clarify? Like, are you printing the entire week's pick list on the Friday, or did I mishear?
I'm not sure exactly what they print downstairs. I just know that they usually look at the following week on the Friday before, just to try and get things prepared and make sure they have, is my understanding.
Okay.
And what happens if there's an emergency case? Are those pick lists printed in the OR and it's sent down to MDRD?
We have an emergency case, we have like 5 or 6 emergency carts already pre-done. If we use them when they come back in to do the instruments, then they just pick those.
Okay.
Like we
Are
have a
you emergency?
laparoscopic. Mm-hmm.
I think you're alluding to what I was asking. Go ahead. There's a lap, like you have different carts, different emergency carts. Okay.
Yeah.
And do you ever have cases where MDRD you have to pick a completely new pick list for an emergency case?
No. We have enough instruments up here to throw a cart together like as nurses.
And who on your site updates and maintains these doctor preference cards? And is it divided by specialty if it's more than one person?
No, we have one RN that sort of owns that. She became sort of like the master on that one. She works alongside MDR, and we have each surgeon has their own binder. We kind of roll off of that.
Okay. What's the nurse's name that's doing that?
Amanda Burtick.
Did I hear Amanda?
Yeah, BIRTIG.
Okay, perfect. When we do position mapping, we'll make sure that she has this very specific position that allows these changes. So the changes that we're making is the perioperative team lead. It's not a position that's provided to everyone. So we'll just make sure that the specific people have it who need to have it. Perfect.
Yes.
Is there a coordinator between MDRD and OR?
I am sorry, what was the question? Coordinator between, yeah, that's myself, Lisa Stride.
And do you have purchasing clerks or logging clerks?
Purchasing clerks and logging clerks. So purchasing from the
Like direct purchase items that don't come from people.
Yeah, that's Carol Hool. So that's a total different department.
Okay. And do you happen to know what department she's from?
Yeah, she's from, it's changed its
In
name.
hospital replenishment.
Yeah.
And do you have logging clerks that like log implants or items that have to be reordered specially?
That would be the same person that she just. Yeah.
I order cataract lenses, but I don't know if that's.
Yeah. And then Carol does all like the hernia meshes and things like that.
Okay.
Do you ever have sets or equipment that are on loan or consignment from other sites, for example?
We did during COVID, but no, they're no longer.
And during COVID, how were these tracked?
I don't understand the question.
Do you use like a paper tracker or anything to monitor which sets you have on loan?
Yeah, I mean, that was just sort of a one-time thing. We've never done that before.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I had it, and we actually never, we had it, but we actually never, in fact, used it. It was just,
okay.
it was just in, right?
Yeah, and you don't have them anymore, you said, so I think that's okay. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. That helps a lot. So I'm just going to wait for my
Yeah.
screen to load. Okay, so next we're going to go over the workflow for adding items and associating to your site using the MMDB tool, and I'll pass it off to Wally.
Sorry, I was on mute. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so we have something called an item master in Cerner. So this is really the equivalent of the Ormus resource catalog, if you guys are familiar with doing maintenance on that. So the PeopleSoft items, which is generally your supply items, sometimes it would be implants as well. They come across as new items if they become itemized in PeopleSoft. So I assume you guys probably work with someone like a Jill Nolan or something like that to get items itemized, or maybe it's through, is it Carol?
Well, Jill helps me on occasion to itemize some things, but she's so busy,
Yeah.
she's actually taught me how to do some of it. So I do a lot of it on my own.
Okay, so
Specifically with cataract, sorry, just with lenses.
No problem. Yeah, so all those items, they need to be kind of itemized in PeopleSoft first before they will appear in the Cerner system, right? And then other things such as site-specific items, sort of your sets and trays, your instruments, your equipment, those would be maintained by the site, right? So somebody would be going into this tool to say, oh, I've brought in a new set, or we bought a new X-ray or something like that, and create those items similar to what you guys would do in the resource catalog in Ormus. So far, so good?
Yeah, that's great. That'll be Sarah.
Okay. All right. And then for implants, I guess in current state, I'm assuming that you guys have an implant log sheet, and
Yeah, we
that
do
the
all
details
that
of the
in
implants.
a binder. Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. In future state, Cerner is supposed to be documented within Periop Doc in an electronic fashion. So there is we call it a segment, where you are supposed to say what item was used and capture things like the catalog number, expiry date, serial number, and things like that. If the implant items are correctly like stored in our item master, then the nurse is able to scan them, and then that one barcode that they scan should split out all those 3 or 4 fields and populate them nicely to that Periop document segment. So that's kind of future state.
That's perfect.
Okay. And then we also have the concept of locations and locators. So this would be similar to in Ormus, your like cost center and inventory, right? That's what gets displayed on your DPC pick list reports to say where items are stored and things like that. And yeah, I wasn't sure. I don't know if you guys use SPD Finder or not, but it also is another application which some sites use to look up items at their site and all the places that they're stored. So it uses the same location and locator values. These will be more or less recreated based on what you guys have in Ormus today. So they'll look very, very similar in Cerner. We'll pull that information, out of Ormus and transform them for Cerner. So locations are like your high level area. So either a room or a storage area. And then locators are kind of broken down usually into something like a row shelf bin or sometimes a truck, right?
So this, I mean, the locator now, that, because we don't have anything right now, so it doesn't talk to each other. So we'll just be starting fresh right from the, as far as like developing this, filling Cerner in with our inventory.
Okay, so sounds like you guys are only potentially storing items right now in the Cerner at the highest level, then not really at a detailed bin shelf cart kind of thing. Is that what I'm hearing?
We don't have any locator inventory.
Okay. Oh, I see. So yeah, we can certainly build that out in more detail for you guys. If it's something that you wanna have going forward, most sites do have that level of detail for their items. Doreen, go
Yes,
ahead.
Doreen.
Do we have a timeline for the location locators? When do you want this built?
I don't think we have a firm timeline on it just yet. Yeah, I don't think we have a firm timeline yet. Did
Okay,
you want
thank
us
you.
to work together to set one, or what are you thinking?
I'm just wondering if there's a
Okay.
timeline for this one. Yeah, thank you.
No worries. Thanks.
Let's continue to the next slide. So this is a high level workflow. So no different than what you guys do today. Your starting point is the item a PeopleSoft item. So if the source is PeopleSoft or supplies, implants, things like that, consumption items, they should be coming across automatically, right? So if you open your item maintenance tool, you'll be able to see them and things like that. One thing that sites do need to do is they need to associate the items to their site. So when PeopleSoft sends us the information, it doesn't tell us what sites plan to order or use that item. So you need to find the item and say, yeah, we're going to be using it at our hospital. And then somebody should be putting in the item class as well, because that's also another field that doesn't come across from PeopleSoft. So this will be similar to the ORMIS item type or resource type, something like an equipment or a suture, things like that, and that should be put in once per item, and then that item class would stick for everybody. Now, if it's not a sorry, the last step would be to obviously update your location and locators if you guys want that level of detail, so people know where to pick the items, and then potentially a nurse may be updating cards to say, okay, now that we have this new item, I can add it to some pick lists and things like that. So for the site-specific items, it'll be more apparent in the demo, but that's where the staff would need to open the item maintenance tool and create those items. Any questions? Okay, so I'll just share my screen. Okay. Let me know if that's coming up.
I can see it, Wally.
Okay, so I'm not sure how end users access the shortcut, but for me, I think you guys will get in a Citrix window, but for me, I access it through this thing called the app bar. So it's application bar, and the tool the icon looks kind of like a plus symbol with a shield. I can also type out the program name in this Cerner window. So MMDB tool. It really stands for Material Management Database Tool. But yeah, I think you guys will get a shortcut in the Citrix storefront or something like that. So I just want to make sure that I'm in the non-prod domain. So I will enter it here. And then, yeah, what it'll look like is you just start off with sort of a general screen where you can find an item, but you can also create an item from here. So the first thing we'll do is, let's say that we're doing a specific item for the site. You can go in here and say, okay, I want a new item. The item type. This is sort of, it's a judgment thing. Equipment master is usually things that are reusable. Item master are usually things like your consumption item. So you can think of, well, if it's a implant or a PeopleSoft item, I don't really have to worry about those because they'll come across from the PeopleSoft interface. So generally, if you're maintaining stuff for your site, it usually is equipment master. So a thing, something like instrument, we would put under equipment master, but it's just kind of like a bucket, right? Here for the description, we need to give something that's unique because Cerner is shared by all the sites. Your descriptions do have to be unique. So if you have a forcep, you cannot just call it a forcep. You have to call it, you have to use a prefix with your site prefix on it to make it unique. So I'll just put qGH forcep. And then maybe you might have the type of forcep or something like that. I don't know if it's going to be 12-inch or something. Short description is usually the same. Actually, it fills it in for me. So a clinical description, what some sites are using this for is to keep track of the quantity. So there isn't really a good field in Cerner right now for tracking quantity. So you can free text it in. I could just say quantity is equal to 3. And then this is a field that will show up, at least it's a visual for the site, so they can tell how many quantity they actually have. Any questions so far?
No, like, yeah, it seems pretty straightforward. Like, just like with this example of a forcep DeBakey, the quantity would be total, like in all our sets, in all our freestanding stereo peels, everything. And then we're doing this, like, I'm just thinking for like building like our inventory. This is for absolutely everything, reusable instrumentation. Is that correct?
I think some sites use it just so that if they know, I think it's more pertinent to probably sets and things like that. So if they know they have, 3 cases coming up that day that require some sort of major set and they know they only have 2, then they might, postpone one of the cases. I think.
But we couldn't do
yeah.
description. We couldn't do MIS full set. We'd have to itemize everything within that set as part of our inventory. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'd have to check with how the other sites are using this,
Okay.
but yeah, I know VGH, for instance, they do it mostly for sets, and there is a report that they use that kind of looks at these numbers here, and it'll kind of give them a warning that, oh, okay, maybe you need to sterilize these in the morning so you'll have enough of them for the afternoon, something like that, right? But it is a free text field. It's just in general, that's what it's been used for.
Okay, we could tweak it to our own site, but
Okay, there is also another tab in here, but I'll save this first, because more tabs will show up after I hit the save button. Oh, I do need an item number. So again, item numbers are also shared across all sites. So we would want to, for any site specific item, always put our prefix, and it can be any number. And what some people would do as well, I'll just use whatever the last biggest number is that we've used for our site and add 1 to it, right? So for instance, I'll just put, 5001 for now, because this is our test system. I don't have much items in here. I could probably use whatever item number I want. But if you did put a number that already exists, the system will warn you. Okay, so I'll hit save on this. And then you'll notice we have a whole bunch of other kind of tabs that show up now. The ones that we usually would be interested in is the general information. Here, you can put in your item class. So this might be an instrument. If you're not sure what item classes there are, you can just press star. And if you click here, it should tell you what all the item classes are. Now, one thing of note is all these RX ones, they belong to the meds management and pharmacy people, so we don't usually use those. If you do have, say, some medications that are in the OR room itself, you can use the medications here. But these actually feed into pharmacy, like they all have to have, it's a different program, tall man convention and things like that. So we don't use any of the RX ones. So this one, I'll just say it's an instrument. And then this is the part where you associate the item with your site. So I've only created this item. It's kind of just living in the system, but Cerner doesn't know that it belongs to qGH. So if I put in qGH here, it will pop up with the full name, and I need to click this icon in order to add it here. So that's pretty much it. Cerner also recommends this account code. I don't know what it's for, but they say to put in surgery supply chain. But I know we've created items in the past where we haven't put this in and it hasn't caused any problems. I think it's mainly a consistency thing. But don't worry, we will give you guys screenshots on all this stuff and documentation, help topics and learning materials. So you don't have to memorize this on one go. And I'll hit save. The other tabs, sorry, any other questions about this tab first? Yeah, this is pretty much all we fill in for this tab. This one, I don't know if you guys use this, but we have some sites, they have component sets. So it's kind of like you have a parent item, and then you could put different types of items within that, like child items. So you can have your layers and tray items inside. So we'll take a look at, your ORMIS data and see if we have those kind of items. But I think last I checked, I didn't really see any. These would be sort of like explosion sheets. Okay. So the other tabs, for instance, manufacturer, that's more used for things like implants, right? So these would be filled in from the PeopleSoft interface. So it'll say whether it's coming from Abbott Labs or Medtronic or whatever, and these items would be filled. So typically for your site-specific items, we don't really go into here. This tab here is where you would say where this item's going to be stored. So here, it doesn't show that it's stored anywhere because it's a brand new item. So we only use this surgery folder, so to speak. These other ones are for pharmacy. So when you look here for a new item, it's going to say not defined. Okay. And how I can store this item at a specific location is if I click on the modify button. Okay. So here I can see where all the pick locations are for all the hospitals. So for qGH, I can click in here. Right. And I'll just say that this is stored in MDRD in this location here. So it's kind of backwards, like you find the location first, and then you go find the item. So it's qGH, did I say 5001, I think? I do a find on here. qGH for set. Do I have to hit description? Well, maybe I have to save this first. Hang on one second. 5001. It might not recognize that this item is at qGH yet. Try this one more time. Modify. Surgery. MDRD. Okay. So if I right click here and say add an item to this location, I can search for the item. So here it is. And once I double click on it, it'll ask me to, it'll say define the item control. We don't need this stuff. What you have to do actually is go in here to store location and say, are you storing the item at this location? And you say yes. And save. So that's how we maintain item locations. Yeah, it's in this second window here. Any questions about this part? Again, we're going to have lots of, learning materials for you guys. Okay. And I'll just want to get back to one last tab here. This cost and price metrics is mainly for your supplies and implants. So some sites do case costing. These amounts will be populated from the PeopleSoft side. We do have regional pricing on all of our surgical consumption items. But if you ever had to, update this manually, this is kind of the screen you would go into, or if you just wanted to see what the price is, this is the screen you would go into. But again, because this item I've created, it won't have that information. So again, mainly applicable to your expensive implants and things like that. And Cerner can, pull reports on things like how much supplies and items cost for certain cases and things like that. Yeah, so some of the sites do it to a limited extent, but I don't believe Cathet is doing case costing. Okay, any questions about this particular tool? Okay, I did want to just pop into SPD Finder real quickly. I think you guys said you don't use it, but I do want to just come in here to say that what you'll notice is in SPD Finder, under Coastal, Powell River is still here. Like I can still find, items for Powell River, right? So as you can tell, these are all coming from Ormus, right? It says we have these sutures and they are at, these locations and things like that in this bin. There's some comments about it. And there's also pictures and things like that. So you can look this stuff up. So yeah, so a lot of time people have pictures of what's in the tray, how it's set up and things like that. Anyway, so it's not an application you guys use?
No.
Okay. Anyways, but yeah, it is something that's available because it's the same source code and it works for all the Cerner sites. The only difference is when you guys go live with Cerner, this shortcut will disappear and then there'll be another one called, it'll start to appear under the Coastal Cerner part of it, and you'll have a little radio button that is for Cathet, right? That's the only difference. The look and feel is going to be 99% the same, and the way you search things is going to be also the same. So this is just an FYI for you guys. But if you don't want to use this tool, that's fine as well. Okay. Can we jump back to the slide then, Monica? I'll stop sharing.
Thank you, Wally. So next we're going to go over the perioperative tracking tool, which you may remember from previous sessions. So within peri-op tracking, there are different tabs depending on your workflow. So previously we went over pre-op and intra-op. Today we're going to go over the case cart tab, which will be used in MDRD. So in the case cart tab, there are different events that you can set to communicate between MDRD and OR. For example, if the case cart is ready, not ready, if it's incomplete, you can also utilize that as well. On the bottom here, we have an example of the way it was used. For example, you see from this symbol here, the case card is incomplete. In this comment section over here, the staff member has put missing bipolar cautery. This is a free text site, so you can put whatever you want to use as a communication tool as well. If you wanted to say like, oh, please fast track this and this, you could also utilize that as well. Okay, so next we're going to go into peri-op tracking. So we're in the LGH case cart tab, but there will also be a qGH case cart tab when we go live as well. And we see here that we have got that MDRD patient. It looks similar to the tracking boards that we saw previously, except there are two fields that are unique. So you have the cart and the comments column, and we can right click anywhere on this and set events. And if we go to the case cart tab, we'll see those 4 events that were mentioned earlier. So for example, if I was picking a case cart and I want to say the case cart is incomplete, I would click save and you would see it updated here. And I could add a comment about what is missing. For example, bipolar cautery, please fast track, something like that. And then this would be updated for everybody to see on their tracking boards. Okay, do you guys have any questions about the perioperative tracking board?
Nope.
Okay, so next we're going to go over the pick list report. So when you go into the pick list report and discern reporting portal, you'll get this prompt on the left side here. And there you can specify your search criteria based on which hospital you're at, where you are, for example, endo or main OR, which OR you want, even by service, date, or case number. And once you press that execute button, all the pick lists that are part of that criteria will open over here. And this is an example of what the pick list may look like. So we have called that general hospital, and this is an appendectomy pick list. So pick lists are specific to the case. So you'll see there's specific patient demographic information, like the patient name, the surgeon, and the surgery time as well. And you'll see here, these are all the items that are attached to that pick list. So we go back to Power Chart here. We can actually access the Discern reporting portal through this toolbar at the very top. So I'm going to click on here. I'll just wait for that to open. Okay, this is what Discern will look like when it opens up. And once it finishes loading, you'll see all the reports that are available to you. So I'm in the materials management position. So these are all the reports available to that particular position. And I'm going to search for pick list report. Oops, sorry. And you also have the option to favorite it, so it goes into your favorite bar, so it's easier to find later on. So when I press run here, this is the same prompt that we saw earlier. So I'll select the hospital that we're interested in. So call that. We're interested in the main OR, and let's say we're interested in all of the pick lists that are for today. So we're going to keep it as any OR rooms, any service, and today's date, and we're going to press execute. Okay, and you'll see here, this is the pick list for today's case. So we have an appendectomy booked for a test patient here, and you see the patient information, surgeon, which OR they're going to be in. And there are several pages, so there are 4 pages in this pick list report. And you can see here that the nurses can also utilize this to see the preference card comments as well on the last couple of pages. Any questions about the pick list report?
No.
Okay. So we'll come on back here. And then Wally will tell us more about the next steps for your site.
Yeah, so like I explained earlier, we do pull a lot of your information from the existing system for items and things like that. However, what we'll do is we'll be creating basically based out of Ormis, we'll create all your items and things like that in our non-prod domain, and then that way we can kind of demo to you guys what that looks like, and then also validate with you to make sure that we've kind of converted your items over properly, and things look in general like what how you guys would like it to look, right? So and things that you may want to obviously review is all your equipment. If you have loaners or trials and instruments, I think you guys said you don't use TDoc, so we don't need to worry about matching item numbers. Um, and then component sets, again, I didn't see any for your site, so I think we can skip those. And then SPD Finder, obviously, also not used. So yeah, I think we'll just have a little bit of validation with you guys when we get the items and pref cards and things like that into the system.
Sorry, can we go back? If we were to identify all the location and locators, is there a specific person who would be best to connect with about that?
I think Sarah.
Sarah? Okay.
Yep.
Because I think also I was like just thinking about what's happening in Lionsgate. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
have TDoc for us to be able to do the locations and locators, right? We can set up the location locators in MDRD now just for pick list purposes, and then when TDoc's gonna go live there, then we can just add the location locators to our TDoc.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right. And so we'll just want to make sure that we're following the same language that we currently would use, because now that you're quite familiar with TDoc now. And so we want to make sure that we're fine using that same language, because what will happen eventually is what we're doing with Lionsgate, where we have to have everything aligning and everything matching. So that's why I was saying if you do end up noting that you're getting TDoc there, but just when you're setting up your MDRD now, make sure that it's consistent with the language.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And Wally, anything to add for that regarding the ongoing work or what we will need to prepare for COFET?
Yeah, I think some sites usually take the time before we get into the nitty gritty of the go live and activation schedule, or even the data collection part. They sometimes will go into Ormis and try to clean up stuff. So maybe there are sets or instruments that are in the system that they really don't use anymore, right? So they'll go in there and then activate that stuff. Otherwise, what happens is we end up bringing over all that stuff to the new system. I mean, which is, it'll still work, but it kind of adds to the clutter, obviously, right? So something to think about if you guys need any like reports or some data about from the Ormus side to say, hey, how many pick lists have this particular item on it? Because we don't use it anymore, right? We should be able to get that information back to you to help you guys with any cleanup that you guys might want to do before we start building the like for like items into the Cerner system, right?
Wally, will you be able also to run the same report that you did for Lionsgate for the consumables and instruments that's in MDRD? So we would actually see if we have the inventory is aligning.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, I can extract things like all the site's items, if they are on a pick list or not, and things like that, and where, according to Ormis, they are located to see if they want to review that data and just check the correctness.
Thank you.
Yeah, but yeah, it's really site dependent. Some sites are like, no, we keep our Ormis pretty up to date. It's pretty accurate. So if you pull out Ormis, it'll be correct. And then other sites might be like, yeah, well, it's kind of maintenance kind of lagging. So we wouldn't mind to take the opportunity to do some cleanup before it goes into the new system.
Yeah, because it would be helpful if we do our location locators, and we actually, it's very helpful to set up the location locators if we have that.
Okay, so we'll have Wally, you can help run that for Doreen for MDRD.
Sure.
Thank you. And that's all we had for presenting today. Is there any questions that you wanted to review about this?
Nope, I think your last question answered my question.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah, that's great.
Anything that you want to see again before we sign off? I think we have a couple of minutes left.
Nope, I think that's good for me anyway.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you all for your time today. We appreciate it. I know that Pam said she had to run off already, so thank you both, Doreen and Lisa, for your time today. We really appreciate it.
That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone.
Please feel free to reach out. You can email me if you have any questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.